Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Amanda and this is a vlog of my late autism and ADHD diagnosis. I also have aphantasia, which is the inability to visualize, and a memory disorder called SDAM, severely deficient autobiographical memory. My plan was to make a video about one of those topics because I haven't done that in a while, but something came up today and I was like, I just really want to jump on and talk about this today. So maybe one of my future upcoming ones will be about aphantasia and my memory disorder. But basically, I had plans today that got changed last minute, which, that happens. But it made me realize that this would be a good video topic because a lot of autistic people really struggle with last minute changes of plans. And it can lead to meltdowns or just shutdowns or just different responses. And I wish I could explain the why of it, but that I don't know. But I do know that I am very susceptible to, if plans get changed at the last minute, it can really wreck the rest of my entire day, which isn't always very good, ever, really. And I especially want to make sure that parents of autistic children are thinking about this and listening to it, because a lot of times when a child's plans get disrupted, then they may not be able to communicate specifically why they're upset. They just go into a meltdown. And sometimes those plans can be something that the child themselves had created. Like in their mind, they were going to eat lunch and then go outside and play. And then their mom comes along and says, hey, after lunch, we're going to run to the store because we need to buy you new shoes. And that disrupts the child's own plans that they made and can cause a meltdown. The parent may not have even realized that the child had made these plans and doesn't understand where the meltdown came from. So that's just something to kind of think about, especially if your child's having a meltdown that you can't pinpoint what happened, right? So as an adult, it can look a little different. And for me personally, I also have some CPTSD around this, which is, complex post-traumatic stress syndrome. Stress disorder. And that has to do around with friendships. Specifically for me, being late diagnosed autistic, I've always struggled with friendships. I've got a lot of videos on this channel talking about my various struggles with keeping and maintaining friends, and canceled plans is one of my triggers for a meltdown, and that may or may not apply to other autistic people. For me specifically, this can look like logically I know that people need to cancel plans for very real reasons, but my amygdala is doing a trauma response based on teenage Amanda, who would often get canceled on because a friend had better plans that would come up, or I would have birthday parties that nobody showed up for, things like that. So it triggers a trauma response from back when I was a child. When I posted on Threads talking a little bit about hey, if you're autistic and you get plans canceled at the last minute, how does that affect you? And so for some people, they did say it can kind of dysregulate them because they had an idea in their head of what they were going to do, and it gets canceled, and trying to get back on track can be dysregulating. And also, I got a lot of autistic people who said that if they have social plans that get canceled, they actually secretly just feel a lot of relief, because especially if they're still in a position where they're masking around those people, they know that, okay, I don't have to go through that masking, overstimulation, sensory, social draining experience. But especially I found when you're with people who you're more comfortable around and you're looking forward to those social plans, then it could be more dysregulating. There's also the aspect of sometimes it's just a matter of task switching. So if you had some plans that you were going to have and they get canceled at the last minute, task switching to something else can be extremely difficult. So it's like, oh, my brain was already going in motion to do this thing. It's canceled. And so I just kind of feel like I'm in a buffer because it's hard for me to kind of retrack and reroute to maybe make a different use of that time that was previously scheduled for the initial plans. And so since my diagnosis and trying to understand why some of my meltdowns or shutdowns can happen, for me, I will usually get a shutdown response when somebody cancels last minute. And what that looks like for me is that I'll get really sad, kind of like withdrawn. It's, again, task switching. It's hard for me to do anything else because I'm focused on the thing that didn't happen. And nothing sounds pleasant or fun. And I can just, it can ruin the rest of my day. And that isn't really something that I want to happen to me, obviously. That's not a fun experience. So I have been, but canceling happens, right? Sometimes their emergency comes up. Sometimes people get sick at the last minute. Sometimes, I may even have to cancel, which is a whole different type of video because the reason why I'd cancel, it may or may not dysregulate me just because that's a whole different situation. But I'm talking about when somebody else has plans. I mean, when you have plans with somebody else and they are canceling. So one of the reasons, hold on, that's not what I want to say. Sorry, guys. Trying to reroute my tangent. Canceling upsets, dysregulates me. So I'm now trying to figure out how to prevent that shutdown from happening. And so one of the reasons why, like I said, that the shutdown might happen is because of that task switching, like trying to, okay, I'm not doing that thing. So now what do I do with my time? So one of my solutions is to just go do that thing by myself, depending on what it was, right? So if I was going to have lunch with a friend and it got canceled, maybe I'll just take myself out to lunch. If I was going to meet up a friend at a bookstore, maybe I'll just take myself to the bookstore. So some of those things might be something that I would just go ahead and do the thing that I was going to do with that friend and just do it by myself. And at first, that can be a little, weird maybe, if you're not used to doing things by yourself. But I've now done this a couple of times and I've found that it's actually very enjoyable. And yes, I would rather be doing it with the friend that I originally wanted to do it with. But, if they can't, doesn't mean that I can't still do the thing myself. Another solution that I've come up with is to be able to try to contact one of my other friends and see if maybe they have spontaneity in their schedule and then maybe can do something. So for instance, today I had plans with one friend that got canceled because she's sick. And so this morning I was like, okay, I'll either go do the thing that we were going to do by myself again, or I went ahead and contacted a friend and I was like, hey, because we were going to do something kind of around the lunch hour. So I was like, hey, are you available for lunch today? And she was. It was kind of fun. It worked out. And if she wasn't, it was so last minute. I wouldn't have, I was like, I know it's last minute, so it's totally okay if you can't. But it worked out in her schedule. It worked out in my schedule. And we were able to have a really nice lunch together. it's not that she was like a second choice, because I love having lunch with her, and I would have planned a lunch with her today anyway, but I had happened to plan it with the other friend. So it's just a way to like kind of reroute my brain. My plans changed, but I still was able to do something proactive to fill that gap. And having this strategy ahead of time has helped, because in the past, before I kind of thought about it in this kind of analytical approach, other people would be like, well, why don't you just, and would fill in suggestions. And that probably also triggered my pathological domain avoidance profile of autism. Somebody else is giving me suggestions. I was like, no, all I wanted to do was that thing. But with me being in control of my choices, knowing that I can do the thing by myself if I want to, or if I have a friend who can do that or something else, then I still get to do the thing. So I ended up having a really nice outing this afternoon. And it goes into that two things can be true at once. That mantra has just been so good for me for the past year, because two things can be true at once. I wish my friend was feeling better and that I could have spent the day with her, and I deserve to have a fun day that I had originally planned. So two things can be true even if they don't go together. And again, this may not be relevant to all autistic people. I'm a very extroverted autistic person. I like having plans and doing things. I love my at-home alone time too. But I really do need that social time to fill up my battery. And so I just wanted to go ahead and kind of put this out there in case it helps somebody. If you're the kind of person who you make plans with somebody and if they cancel, you feel relief, then that's okay too. That's totally valid. And there have been times when that's happened to me, especially, oh, my nose is itching. Especially if it's like an event later at night. Because I am not a night, or late at night for me, it's like 8 o'clock. I'm just not a night person at all. If I will make plans in the evening, but if those get canceled, I'm usually like, okay, cool. I would have been fun, but I'm totally fine that they got canceled. I'm just going to sit at home in my PJs. So, all of this is depending on the situation. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me in this video, and until the next one, bye.